you're gonna see my hand, whoop, flatten. Oh, did you see the whole rod come down? Check this out. So here's my rod tip. I haven't started my presentation. You can see my hands coming together so that I have no slack. Boom, I've started that forward movement and that rod tip has come down at least a foot, like it's come down a solid foot, completely flattened out. Now my drift angle, you can see how when I stop the rod here, boom, I have a very high rod tip. Now this is all drift, 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 drift. So I've already dropped it like 3 feet or more. Then I'm gonna drop it another foot before I start that cast. And look at that, backwards, 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 here we go. The moment I apply forward pressure, I'm not loading the tip, I'm negating the tip of the rod. I'm negating the tip of the rod, boom, the bend's right here. Boom, it's right here, it's right there. Now it's even deeper, look at that. The rod tip stays flat because the rod tip has all the pressure against it. The moment I start moving, the rod tip comes down, boom, bend, 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 bend. It comes up, look at that bend. I love Thomas Shanks rods, are sick. That Chippewa stick is nearly perfection. Look at that. Holy crap. Look at that. It's bent at, you should feel how heavy that 10 weight is. It's bent at the cork. Look at that amount of pressure I have put into the butt of this rod. This is a 10 weight. This is not a 4 weight or a 5 weight or a 6 weight that everybody's using for casting demos. This is a full-blown 10 weight. Look at that bend. It's my hand, my thumb is vertical. Look at that bend. It's all in the butt section and then it stops and I'm going to unload all of this power with a wrist flick. Ding! And there it goes. You ready? Whoosh. Doosh. So what's going on, patrons? Thanks for your support, guys. It means a lot to me. If this makes it to YouTube, I might post this one on YouTube. I am not sure, but this is what you guys can expect from kind of some behind-the-scenes Patreon stuff. But get in there, join the community, trying to grow it here. It's a pretty cool thing. Was the transition in your cast from stopping the rod. Now what you do between stopping the rod and beginning the presentation stroke would be a transition. You're transitioning the cast. So you're going to stop, you're going to drift, you're going to approach horizontal. The rod is going to dip down or transition so that as you start to load the rod, you load it into the butt section of the blank. That's the whole point of the video. Load the butt section, not the tip. Those are the things I articulate. Now, this lightsaber fly rod demo, it works for the demo because the only way to get it to open up is to rotate it, and the only way to rotate it is if you transition it. It came from Ed. I don't know how to say your last name, Ed. Jarorowski. I wish I could hear somebody say it. I don't know how to say it. 90-degree rod angle, tip loads. 180-degree angle, butt loads. Anywhere in between is critical angle. It happens to be relative to how far you're trying to cast. Basically, the longer the cast, the more the critical angle becomes important. And since I'm talking about distance casting in large flies, obviously I'm talking about wide critical angles. The wider the angle, when your hand starts to move and rotate the rod, the farther down the rod, the load develops. It's perfect, right? The more the angle, the more rotation, the farther into the bend it works. Then there's a whole thing applied to fighting fish, and the critical angle applied to fighting fish, and why you should have kind of a lower, more aggressive angle instead of a high kind of trout rod angle. And I love this one. This one's so good. Look at this, look at this. So he's got a 90-degree rod angle, and he's pulling as hard as he can. You know, he's bending that rod. He's applying 0.67 pounds of pressure. He opens it up to nearly 180 degrees, nearly all the way flat. Look at that, 7.54 pounds of pressure. So the amount of pressure that you can put, look how strong the midsection and the butt is. That's how much more energy it's storing, and it's because of the critical angle, it's because of the transition when you start the cast. And then he goes on to explain why surf fishermen, people who are distance casting spin rods, swing their bait to increase the critical angle when they start the cast to load even a spin rod deeper. I'd really encourage you guys to film yourself cast, because if you can do it and you can slow it down frame by frame like this, you can learn a heck of a lot. So here's, here comes my back cast. You can watch it. Oh, we'll just do the whole cast. So check this out. The rod is loaded. I'm going back. My hand stops here. You see that? My hand stops, boom, right there. And the rod's going to unload. The rod's perfectly straight. I got a nice tight loop. The whole line's nice and taut, and you're going to see my hand drift. This is the drift right here. Now, right before I start the presentation stroke, watch my rod tip's way up here. You can see it way up there. Dropping, 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 dropping. Started my presentation. It's still dropping. Nice, nice. That's when my hands come together, generating all the power in my hips. My rod tip has dropped a full inch on my screen, which is probably, 2 feet in the air. I don't know how you would categorize that, but it's come down all this way, and this is the line of my rod. This is my rod, nearly flat as basically as I can get it. As soon as I move, boom, look, the tip hasn't moved, the tip is flat. Look at that bend in the rod. The tip almost has barely moved. It's come up a little bit. Look at all that bend in the rod, right? So I'm getting all of this power from a flat rod, and I've loaded, look at, you can see it. Can you see this? Look at forward. Look at that bend. It bent right here. Look at this, look at this. The tip's gonna stay where it is. It's gonna drop a little bit, and the bend's gonna happen right here. Oh, did you see it? I loaded the butt and midsection of the rod, which has significantly more power than the tip. So I took all this energy from my hips and I loaded it right here. Now look at this tip, because the tip has, 400 something grains of line stopping it from moving. And look at this rod arc as I progress through this stroke. Now my hand's gonna stop. That rod is gonna unload and flick a sick loop, and it goes in slow motion for an epic, it's gonna, yeah, I love it when it smacks the rod tip. So that is a little behind the scenes there for our transitions castings video. But thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one, guys.